Hello, welcome. My name is Jessica Pierce, and I am the CEO and founder of Career Connectors, and we are thrilled to see all of you jumping on today. If you can see on the slide in front of you, we'd love to hear from you, and some of you have already started, but if you could just open up your chat. If you don't know where that is, it's on the bottom of your screen. If you're on a laptop or a computer, it's on the bottom of your screen, and click on the chat icon. And what I would love for you to do is follow in the footsteps of some of the other people that are talking in the chat. Tell us where you're calling in from, and tell us what industry or target job that you have or that you're looking for. We're all about connecting and meeting people as best we can in this virtual format. So please go ahead and drop in. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate you, Athena. Good morning, Joanne. Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for being here and jumping on this call and engaging. The other thing we're going to be asking for you guys after you do that is to drop in your LinkedIn URL. So LinkedIn allows us to connect with each other. For example, if we find a Karen from Maryland, if we come across a position as an IT analyst, then we are already connected. And so we know that we can talk to you through LinkedIn. So we'd encourage everyone to drop in your LinkedIn URL. Everyone can connect with each other that way. And I am just going to drop in the instructions right in the chat. If you are wondering, how do I drop in my clickable URL from LinkedIn? I just dropped that in the chat so you can see how to do that. Well, welcome. We hope you are engaged today, that you get some great information. We're going to be bringing some fantastic content. We have coaches here to work with you at the end. And so that's what we're here today. Career Connectors is all about building our communities, and we do that through people getting great jobs and having great careers. And so we're about elevating communities. We empower not only people looking for jobs, but employers and service providers as well. So we're the connection place where we want you guys to connect with each other. And so a couple logistical things. If you have questions today or comments, please drop them in the chat. It is the best way for us to engage and be able to respond to you. Our speakers are going to be also moderating in the chat and watching it, and they'll be during their talks, but also before and after their talks as well. So if you have specific questions for our speakers or any of our team, feel free to drop it in the chat. You can also message people directly in the chat. So you can send a note to somebody else on the list. Maybe you see somebody else from Latasha, maybe you see someone else from Atlanta, Georgia, and you want to just touch base with them. And so just shoot them a direct message on the chat. You guys can do that as well. The default is that your message goes to everybody. But if you click on that little drop down button, you can pick who you want the message to go to, and then it comes up in a different color so that you can see. So we encourage you all to connect with each other. We see people from all over the place today. We have a Michigan on the line. Good morning, Sharon. We saw Georgia on the line. We have people from Phoenix and Mesa. So all over, you guys. So glad you all are here today. Now, a couple tips on how to view the talk today. On your computer screen, on the top right corner, for most of us, it might be a little bit different if you're on a phone, but on the top right corner, you can click view. And there is a view option that says side-by-side speaker. That is typically the best view for the keynote talk. That way you can see the PowerPoint slides that are coming up, but you can also see the video of the speaker. And so click on that. That is what we would encourage you to utilize. And then let's see, at the end of the two, we have a keynote speaker, and then we have a secondary keynote today. After those two people go, then we'll be having breakout sessions. And so at the end, we have coaches, we have resume writers, professional resume writers that can give you guidance on your resume. We have LinkedIn coaches that know LinkedIn really well, know how to help you connect, know how to help you reach out to people. And so I encourage you to stay on for that portion of the talk. All right, if you are interested in closed captioning, then at the bottom of your screen, you can just hit the live transcription button, and that will allow the transcription to come up for you. So you can have that closed captioning today. All right, so you guys are going to hear our keynote, Interviewing with Confidence by Carmen Payne. And then we're going to hear from Anna Brambilla on success teams. And so that's really about kind of accountability and who do you have in your life that is helping you set you up for success. We'll talk about, I'll give you guys some additional resources when we close it out, and then we'll go into the breakout rooms. So our speakers will be around for the breakout rooms, and then we have all of these coaches there for you. And they're going to be talking to you and available either in a small group or a one-on-one format. And so I encourage you to stay for that portion. So great job in connecting, you guys, and dropping in your information here. Let's see, Cincinnati, Ohio. Good morning, Miguel. We have lots of people from all over today. So make sure you guys are all connecting with each other. I am going to drop again in the chat on how to drop in your LinkedIn URL. So the reason we want you to make sure it's blue is because this chat cannot be copied and pasted anywhere. And so what you need to do is drop in your blue, the LinkedIn URL, it has to be blue, and you'll see my instructions right there on the chat on how to make it blue. Click, and then what we do is, for example, good morning, Alona. I am from Miami. I'm going to go ahead and click on your LinkedIn URL right now. It's going to pop open a browser, and then I'm going to connect with her, and I'll probably say something like, hey, thanks for joining us today. And so if you all could do that and then connect with each other, it's really a great way to stay engaged with the call today. All right. So I am honored to invite you all to participate and listen in this morning to our keynote speaker, Carmen Payne. She is the owner of SOAR Transformational Life Coaching and is a professional and personal development coach with 25 years experience in the areas of leadership, coaching, mentoring, training, and project management. Prior to making the leap from her 25-year corporate career, Carmen traveled the world and facilitated workshops, even as she developed, tested, trained, and partnered with Fortune 500 companies to deploy integrated IT strategies. Carmen obtained her coaching certifications at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts and with the Quantum Success Coaching Academy. She also holds certifications in neurolinguistics, programming, and timeline therapy, and is a certified ADD heart facilitator. Her services include personalized coaching workshops, consulting, and speaking. This is really interesting, you guys. She comes from the beautiful island of Malta, and she grew up in the UK before moving to the USA over a decade ago, and currently she resides in Phoenix, Arizona. Carmen, I'm honored that you came back and are speaking with us. Welcome, Carmen Payne.
Yay. Yay. Good morning, everyone. I just want to double check I have control of the slides. Agree? Just, it's just, you know, the usual technical stuff.
Let's see, it says you have control. Do you?
Awesome. All right. And then, okay, let's see. There we go. Brilliant.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to mute myself really quick. I just need to take that.
No worries. Good morning, everybody. I cannot believe so many people have showed up this morning. This is fantastic. And this is an awesome sign for me too, because before I go into how to prepare you to be super confident in your interview and nail it so you get to the next stage, I want to just ask you a couple of questions. Who's driving your career bus? Okay. So are you a victim of your circumstances in your career? Are you the passenger? Whoops. Are you the passenger on that bus? Or are you the driver? Okay, because if you're not the driver, really need to do some reflection and ask yourself some serious questions about how can you become the driver of your own career bus? Because when you're more in control, that also helps to give you that boost of confidence as well. So I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and as Jessica mentioned in my bio, I was a project manager for a number of years, traveling all over the world doing IT deployments. And I saw in the chat that there's quite a few of you in the IT industry, so that is awesome. And this really resonated with me when she said it. So she said, your career is an investment and you need to treat it that way. So it's investment in time, it can be investment in money. What new certifications do you need to go get? What books do you need to read? What courses do you need to take, right? What YouTube videos do you need to watch, right? What free resources are available for you in order for you to really invest in your career so that you can nail the job that you really truly love, okay? So she mentioned these 3 steps. And again, when I work with my clients, this is really what we focus on as well. Is reflect on the last 12 months. Now we're like, this is perfect, right? Because we're coming towards the end of this year and we're moving into 2023. So what have you done in the last 12 months, right? Reflect on the last 12 months. What's worked really, really well for you? What's not worked so well for you? Kind of doing a strength and weakness assessment of the last year. If you've heard of a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, maybe do that on the last 12 months. Just to reflect back on what's really worked well for you. What did you love doing? What toxic relationships do you want to get out of in terms of your career, right? If you work for an awful boss, right? Reflect on all of that stuff. What skills do you have that can transfer to every single industry, right? That you might want to move into. So all of you have so many transferable skills. And often when we go into an interview, we can be very myopic and tunnel visioned and only think about what job did I just do that I can transfer to this job? Well, I would challenge you and say, okay, bring in all your experience, right? What are you doing personally and professionally that can really help you in the job that you're applying for, right? In the career that you want to pursue, right? The whole human shows up to the interview, right? Not just the professional, but the personal piece of you shows up to that interview. So really reflect on everything that you bring to the table and then plan slow to move fast. So don't rush your plan, sit down with it. Just take time in your day, maybe block out a couple of hours in your calendar to really sit down and make a plan for where you want to be next year, in the next 12 months, right? A good plan now, taking the time to do a good plan now will really set a really strong foundation for you, okay? And then start to act. A plan without action is meaningless, right? So start to plan, and then act, right? You've got to act, you've got to build that energy, get that momentum going. And even if you have a couple of setbacks, that's okay. You can always reset, all right? Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there just in case you needed a gentle reminder. All right, so let's move on to the interview process, okay? All right, so, there's still, unfortunately, COVID is still around and things like that. So what I would suggest you do is just, if you're going to go in person to a company, sometimes some industries will still have COVID protocols in place. So just check what's in place, right? Just so that you're prepared and that you don't show up unprepared. Again, because that will really knock your confidence if you show up and you're like, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, right? You don't want to be in that position. Just ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. If you do need to wear a mask in that particular location, again, depending on the industry that you're going for, maybe you need to bring a mask, maybe you need to bring a hand sanitizer. This is just, again, you need to check with wherever you're going, what their protocols are. And then again, they might have some protocols regarding, handshaking and things like that. Just ask the questions, what protocols do they have in place? So again, so that you're prepared and you know what to expect, okay? And then again, some of us might be immune compromised. We might not want to do the interview in person. So just ask them, look, would you mind us doing a phone interview initially, or can we do it via video? And again, what is an interview? I want you to put in the chat for me right now. What essentially is an interview? And I'm going to be monitoring your responses. This is a participatory talk. So I want to see some chat. So what's an interview in general? Wonderful. Thank you, Mary Beth. Conversation about needs and fulfillment. Time to connect and get to know each other. Thank you, Jessica. Process to know each other, getting to know each other. Two-way sales pitch, all right. Q&A for both parties, exactly. It's a conversation, right? You're seeing if you're a good fit, they're a good fit for you as much as you're a good fit for them, right? It's just a conversation. I'll tell you a secret. I do interviews just because. I actually go to interviews just because I want to maintain my confidence. I want to understand what kind of questions they're asking still. And I also want to keep myself in check, right? Keep myself on my toes. So I just actually have fun with it. All right, wonderful. It's a selling session of the background and experiences. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So it's generally a conversation, right, between you and one or more people in an interview process. And that's all it is. All right, so in the chat, so I want to hear from you in the chat. What kind of questions do you find awkward or tricky to answer in the interview, or uncomfortable? Let's put that in the chat. Tell me about yourself, love it. Salary, okay. Any other tricky questions? Weaknesses, that's always that's a huge one. Wonderful, thank you, Jeff. What's your greatness means? Thank you, Athena. What's the one question you were hoping I wouldn't ask? I love it, Anna. Okay, challenging time, yep. Fantastic. Why did you leave your prior job? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a couple of tools to help you navigate those tricky questions, okay? So before the interview, so that when you get there, you are totally prepared and you can really stand and feel empowered in what you're saying, okay? So some of these came up. So the top 5 most tricky questions that are out there that most people find awkward are: what is your greatest weakness and strength? Describe a time when. Share an example of when. How did you handle X situation? And tell me about your last current job or employer, or why did you leave your last job? Okay, so these are all coming up. Okay, I'm just looking at your chat. Sorry if I'm looking at my phone. When you had an issue with a coworker, awesome, awesome, right? So all of these questions that you're putting in the chat are typically behavioral questions. The salary question, typically in a first interview, you may not want to address that straight away. You might want to wait until the second interview to answer the salary question, just to give you a bit of a tip there. All right, so those are the tricky questions. So then what's one of the first things that happens in an interview? Put that in the chat for me. Introductions, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Introduce, tell me about yourself. Yep, introductions. So yes, your introductions. So keep calm, okay? So one of the tips I'm going to give you is if you're meeting in person and even over the phone or via video, I really want you to feel very, very grounded, right? And the way you do that is just to plant your feet firmly, firmly on the floor and just breathe, okay? A lot of us go into an interview and we're up here, right? What you need to do is breathe into your body, right? So that you feel very grounded and centered, so that when you do introduce yourself, they're picking up on that energy from you, right? That you're very calm and you're confident, you're collectively calm and confident, okay? So when you introduce yourself, just remember to breathe and then speak, okay? Now, if we were in the room together, I'd have you all standing up and shaking hands, but we're not doing that right now. So I want you to breathe and relax your shoulders, because sometimes we go into interviews and our shoulders are up in our ears, right? You want to breathe, roll your shoulders back and stand open, okay? Good morning, good afternoon, my, so-and-so, whatever the name. So I'll pick on Jessica because she's running this meeting, right? So I'll say, good morning, Jessica. My name is Carmen. Very pleased to meet you, okay? And then just shake your hand and meet the same pressure that they give you, assuming that you're allowed to shake hands, okay? Just meet the same pressure. No big deal. Don't overthink your handshake, okay? Don't crush their hand. Don't be like a wet fish. Just meet the same pressure, okay? And then we're moving on to the interview, right? So the biggest question that my clients have the hardest time with is, what is your greatest weakness and what is your greatest strength, okay? Now, a lot of us think that admitting a weakness means that, it makes us vulnerable, okay? But your vulnerability is your greatest strength. I can't emphasize that enough, okay? And the fact that you've done the thinking, you've done the introspection of thinking about, okay, what are some of the areas that still challenge me? Okay, what are my opportunities for growth? If you think of your weaknesses of areas of opportunities for growth, then answering that question doesn't become so challenging, right? So when you sit and think about that question before you go into the interview, ask yourself, okay, what areas do I really want to grow in, right? What opportunities do I have to expand my knowledge or expand my skill set or expand how I show up, you know, as a human being, right? And then with your great strengths, obviously, you know, you never, so let me just step back. Never answer a weakness question by saying, I don't have any weaknesses. Okay, don't do that. What is the interviewer going to think of you if you say that? Put that in the chat, right? If you say, I don't have any weaknesses, right? What are they going to think of you? Are they going to want to hire you? Probably not. Not humble or able to take feedback, non-coachable, that's huge. You must not think too much of yourself. I love it. You're arrogant, not interesting and likable. See, and instantly, right, you have a negative connotation with that response, right? So how do you avoid that? You avoid that by, before your interview, preparing for that question, right? So think about, where do you want to grow? What are your opportunities for growth, okay? And that's how you answer that question. Now, if they pose the question to you as a double, right? What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? Where do you start? You start with your weakness first and end on your strength. Why do you want to end on your strength? Put that in the chat. Why do you think you want to end on your strength? Come on, people. Awesome. That's the last thing they remember, that they end on a positive. Yes, brilliant. You guys are awesome. Yes, that's what they'll take away. Exactly, right? You want to leave on the positive note. Fantastic. All right, so another tool that you can use to help you get there as well is to do this SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And as you can see, I've crossed out the word weakness and I've changed it to opportunities for growth or areas of improvement, okay? Because that makes your mind think differently, right? It expands your thinking. It inspires you to think in a different way. So I'm gonna challenge you now to take a minute using this slide as an inspiration for you to think about, I just want you to focus on your strengths and your areas for improvement. So I want you to think about and write down, and if you're brave, put them in the chat. What two weaknesses and not weaknesses, areas of improvement and strengths do you have? So have a minute, and if you don't feel comfortable putting it in the chat, please write it down. Okay. So what two strengths do you have, and what areas of improvements do you have? Two of each, please. I feel like I should be doing the do 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 do. All right, I'm going to be monitoring the chat to see what you guys come up with. Now, another tip is look at if you do performance appraisals at your job, you've got previous appraisals that they do and things like that. Look at those appraisals, and in those appraisals, there should be some really excellent areas for you to look at in terms of your strengths and opportunities for growth, right? So you can always look back on that information and go, okay, this appraisal wasn't a complete waste of my time, as many of us think they are, right? Not everybody enjoys their annual review, right? But they're really good tools to pull out information about your strengths and areas of improvement, okay? And the other things you could do is call somebody who thinks the world of you, right? And who is going to be honest with you, and ask them, hey, what do you think my strengths are? What do you think I could do differently, right? Talk to the people around you. If they're honest with you, they'll give you some really wonderful feedback that you can use to answer this question, okay? All right, so let's have a look. Strength. So Mary Beth says, broad experience, weakness, broad experience. Wonderful. Yeah, because sometimes your strengths can be both, right? A weakness, an area of improvement, and a strength. So Anna says, not detail oriented, easily distracted, connect. So that's perfect. Thanks, Anna, who's going to be speaking next, by the way. I'm looking forward to her talk. Mariana says, I like to work on my own time and do my things my own way. So you don't like to be micromanaged, okay? But you're a fast, accurate worker. Fantastic. Okay. I tend to lead with a left brain response. So Jeff says he leads with the left brain response. That's such great introspection. And I may not be working with a left brain person. Okay, so his presentations are heavy on words versus pictures. And then the strengths is relationships. And so this is awesome, guys. Very good. All right, so you've already prepared for one of the questions in your next interview, which is awesome, right? Okay. So these behavioral questions are really a wonderful indicator to an interviewer of past behavior. So your past behaviors, how they impact your current performance, okay? So when I get an idea of how you answer these questions as an interviewer, it gives me an idea, a sense of what are you going to be like on the job, right? It gives me an idea of what kind of characteristics you're going to display, what kind of behaviors you're going to display in certain situations, right? So what's a behavioral question? So let me, they start with typically, can you tell me about a time where you had a challenge with a coworker, right? Can you give me an example of X, Y, Z? Describe a time when, how did you handle this X situation? Have you ever had, can you share, right? They typically start with those kind of words, right? And there's a really easy tool that you can use to help you answer all these kind of questions, all right? So here's an example of a behavioral question. Give me an example of a time when you had a setback or a disappointment concerning a project or activity you were responsible for, okay? If you're not prepared to answer that question in an interview, how are you going to feel, right? What's going to be going through your mind? Panic, right? And it's going to be, yes, I see Alyssa like nodding her head. Yes, panic, right? Don't want you to feel that way. I want you to be prepared, right? Because preparation, easy for me to say, is the key to confidence, all right? So there's a super simple tool that you can use. And when I'm working one-on-one with clients, we spend a lot of time doing this. And why? Because this is what's going to nail you that second interview, right? How you answer these behavioral questions is going to help you get to the next round, right? So if you are succinct at answering these questions, you've got a formula to answering these questions that you highlight, like headline all the key things, right? When you're answering that question, and you're not waffling on for 10 minutes, right? Answering a question, because no interviewer wants to listen to you waffling on. Sorry, I'm just being completely real here. For 10 minutes answering one question, okay? So you want to be able to answer that question very succinctly, very precisely, very clearly, all right? And you always want to make sure that your result, so your situation, you're going to set up the scene, okay? What task or specifics were you required to do, right? What actions did you do? What's, that really highlight your skills, okay? And what behaviors and characteristics like communication, I did this, I did that, right? And then looping that situation back to the result. Okay, so what was the result of that, an outcome, what happened? And you want to be able to kind of maybe try to quantify it if you can, okay? So maybe you increased customer loyalty by 20%. Maybe you delivered projects on time, X percentage, right? Maybe you, what's another one? I used to teach this class, this interviewing with confidence class at a domestic violence shelter. And we went through their stars, right? And a lot of them came and said, well, I haven't been working a long time because, their situation, they weren't allowed out of the house. I mean, it was some very sad stories, but these women were super inspiring just to be able to be in front of them and help them with their confidence, right? Going into an interview, especially if they've not been working for a while, right? Helping them understand their results, right? What they achieved in certain situations. And they were drawing on all kinds of experience, right? Because some of these women weren't allowed to work, right? Because their partner wasn't letting them go out of the house, right? So, how do you answer questions in an interview when you've been, in a situation like that, right? So we really kind of looked at all aspects of their life, right? What were they doing in their community maybe? Or what were they doing in their home that showed certain skills and characteristics, right? That allowed them to demonstrate that in the interview, okay? And there was one lady who said that she was working at she used to work at a tortilla restaurant, and the customers would complain about how bad the tortillas were, or whatever they were making. And so she knew how to make really delicious tortillas. And so she spoke to the owner. She said, hey, look, would you let me change the recipe and maybe make my version of tortillas and sell those to the customers? And he was like, yeah, sure, let's try it. And their sales increased dramatically, right? So I just said to her, okay, well, how many, how can you quantify the change? She said, well, we had lines out the door, our money, we got way more money at the end of the day and things like that. So that's all quantifiable, right? So she was able to talk about that in her interview, right? So that's the kind of thing that you want to think about, all right? What result and outcome, and try to quantify it as best as you can. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at the time. How am I doing? All right. So this is another interview question. Actually, I want to just challenge somebody who wants to have a quick go at a star. A quick go at a star. And put it in the chat. Alyssa, I'm going to pick on you. Alyssa Quintana. Would you be brave enough to do a star real quick?
Well, I think this is what made me bomb my last interview.
Okay. I was looking at your chat earlier and I'm like, we need to help you. So, all right. We're not going to go too much into why you bombed. I totally agree with Jessica's comment. It's a learning experience, right? Anytime you come out of an interview and you're like, oh God, I should have said this and I should have done that and stop. Okay, stop it. It's a learning experience. Just learn from it. Okay, what can you do differently next time? That's all it is. All right. So Alyssa, would you like some help on your star?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so give me a situation. What's the question that you struggled with?
Okay, they asked, when was the time that I had a conflict with another employee? But I don't ever remember having a conflict with another employee.
All right, so so you didn't have one. You've never had one?
No, well, I made up something like that. There is, I mean, it's not really made up, but I've worked with other people who had conflicts and I just minded my own business and they were let go and I kept working.
All right, so I'm going to call on the team here online and say, okay, has anybody else had that question? And you can put it in the chat. And how Mariana said that. Okay, and Mariana, in the chat, how did you respond to that? Let me ask you, did you ever have a challenge with another coworker?
Yes, but
Okay.
I think that's why I didn't get my job either.
Okay, see, all right, this is awesome. All right, so Alyssa, we're just gonna, in your situation, if you've not really had a challenge with a coworker, have you had a challenge with anybody? All right, okay, we've all had challenges with people, right? Family, friends, whatever. Okay, so think about a situation where you've had a challenge with someone, okay? So what was the situation?
Okay, I have a cousin in Phoenix that I was helping. She was just out of prison and she was an addict. And I was helping her. She had been let go for COVID at one of the golf resorts because, they shut everything down. So I was helping her get on unemployment and helping her do all this paperwork. But then she kept getting mad at me because the unemployment benefits are taking forever. So she blew up at me. She's calling me all sorts of names.
Okay, all right, let's keep it. All right, because the more you kind of go into the drama, and Mariana, maybe that's what happened with you responding to the question. You want to stay away from the drama, right? And you want to kind of respond like a police report. You want to just stick to the facts, okay? You were helping your cousin apply for unemployment benefits, okay? Or you're helping someone apply for unemployment benefits. So what was the task required? Did you have to go online? What did you need to do?
Yes, go online and fill out forms.
Okay, and then what action did you take?
Well, I helped her and made sure that she got everything submitted. She got all of her identification turned in. So she was just waiting. That was it.
Okay, great. And what was the result?
Well, she ended up getting them at the end.
Okay. So what was the challenging part with this person? That she was getting annoyed with you?
With me for something that was out of my control.
Okay, so how did you handle that part?
I sat her down and finally, when we were both cooled off,
This is awesome.
explained the process to her because I didn't think she quite understood. And then we're fine.
Wonderful. So what was the outcome of that? So what did you learn from that experience? What
That
would you have done differently next time?
maybe explained something better to begin with.
Yeah, that
process.
was awesome, Alyssa. That was awesome. Hopefully, I know for other people that situation may not resonate with everyone, but hopefully the gist of it from what Alyssa just described, you resonated with some of what she just learned, and just sticking to the facts, okay? Take the emotion out of it, take the drama out of it, right? What did you do to help resolve that situation? Okay, and if you didn't do it at the time, what did you learn from that experience, right? So you do it differently next time, right? Because that shows me what about you. What did you just learn about Alyssa in the chat, people? What did you learn about Alyssa? What characteristics does she demonstrate? Wonderful. Calm. Wonderful, Jeff. Helpful. Wonderful. Patience, perseverance. You writing this down, Alyssa? These are your strengths. In control, open to learn and improve, empathy, understanding. This is fantastic. You need to take a screenshot of this chat, Alyssa. Empathy, analysis of self and correction of negative behavior, right? Just from that one story that she shared with you, that 1 star, we have learned so much about Alyssa in that situation, right? Isn't that huge? So this is why you really need to take the time before your interview to come look through your resume and go, okay, for this particular accomplishment, what was the positive path on this, right? Do a star for that. What were the challenges I faced for this? Do a star on that. What was the lessons I may have learned from that? Do a star on that, right? So from one accomplishment on your resume, you can come up with multiple different types of stars to help you answer all these different types of behavioral questions. Does that help everybody? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if that helped you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Michael. Wonderful. All right. Okay, so this is really going to help you get your confidence in the interview, because you'll just be able to pull out from the back of your head a different star for all these different behavioral questions, okay? Now, this question, tell me about your last current job or ex-employer question. This one can trip people up, and that's because if you've had a positive experience, it's easy, right? But if you've had a negative experience, maybe you got let go, right, in your last job, and that left kind of like a bitter taste in your mouth, all right? Or maybe you worked for a boss that you didn't particularly like, all right? The way you answer this question is really going to be critical, especially if it comes from a negative experience, okay? So the key thing when you get asked this question is to watch your body language, right? Even if you're on the phone and they cannot see you, watch your body language, okay? Because your body language will influence how the words come out of your mouth, okay? Your tone. So people can sense things on the phone, even how you're really feeling about something, right? Okay, if you're not being sincere about what you're saying, okay? So I had a lady that I was working with, she had tons of interviews, right? And the reason that she wasn't getting the job, and it became completely evident to me when I was questioning her, was I asked her this question, okay, so tell me about your last job. She's like, right? Giving it all that attitude, right? And she did that in the interview. God love her. She didn't know any different, right? She did that in the interview. So do you think I'm going to employ someone who does that when I ask them that question? No. Thank you, Karen. Dr. Karen DeShields says no. Like, she's shaking her head, no, right? Not going to do that, right? So when you get asked this question, you need to practice in front, especially coming from a negative situation, practice in front of the mirror your response. Okay, so you can see your body language in the mirror, right? How are you, are you rolling your eyes? Are you kind of giving it the whole attitude kind of thing, right? What are you doing in your body? Because your body will give away everything, right? Because we are amazing at picking up on people's body languages, okay? So practice answering this question in a factual manner, right? Again, kind of like what we just did with Alyssa. Remove any drama from it, remove any emotion from it, and just factually speak about the last job, right? Factually speak about your last employer. Is there something positive that you can find in that experience that you can use in that response? Okay. Your body language is going to be absolutely critical in that response to that question. Okay. And don't sit there for 5 minutes berating that person. Okay. Again, remove the emotion from it, stick to the facts. Okay. All right. So I'm going to re-emphasize. Even when you're not communicating, you are communicating. Okay. It's impossible for us not to communicate. All right. How many of you have sent a text expecting an immediate response and the person didn't reply to you? And you're like, oh, they haven't replied, it must mean this or it must mean that. Oh my God, right? And you're making up all this stuff in your head, right? And really they might just be busy, right? Or maybe their phone died, right? You're making up this whole drama. So you are you're interpreting their lack of response as some form of communication, right? So even when you're not communicating, you're communicating. All right. So when you look at this picture, right, you can see these people all kind of sitting there, and which person are you going to want to pick for your candidate if you're interviewing someone? You're going to pick any of these people? Probably not, right? Just because their body language is telling you so many different things, right? So your body language is your physical, what you're doing with your body, your words, and your tone, okay? It's a combination of all of that stuff, right? So your non-verbal communication is the majority of your communication. It's 55% of your communication, okay? Only 7% of what you communicate, your body language, is communication, words you speak, okay? And then 38% of it is the tone of your voice, right? So you know when you've had a conversation with somebody and you're like, right, and it's like, it's not what they said, it's how they said it, right? It's how they said it, it's the tone that they used, okay? So just be very careful when you're in an interview about your tone of voice and your body language, right? Because you react physically before you speak, right? Your face will give things away. So the more you practice your responses in the mirror, right? So that you know what kind of video yourself even, right? When I work with clients, I video them. They probably hate me, right? But it works, okay? I video them so we can play it back, and I just let them watch, right? And I let them assess, okay, what facial expressions were you using at that particular point when that question was asked, right? What was your body language saying, right? Are you being convinced? Because we can all sense insincerity, right? We can all sense when somebody's not in integrity, right? Because their body says one thing and their words are saying something else, right? We can all sense it. And so your interviewer will sense that too. So you really need to focus on your body language. How are we doing on time? All right, so confidence, all right? Whatever confidence represents to you. I love this picture of Beyonce because she is just oozing, right, confidence in this pose, right? So how do you get there? So have you heard of Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on body language, on the power pose? Some of you are nodding your head. If you haven't watched that video, go watch that video because it's a really wonderful video. But essentially, just to sum it up, what I do before every talk, before every interview, when I'm going to go into a challenging situation, is I will do a 2-minute power pose in front of the mirror, okay? And it can be anything. I'm going to stand back a little bit. And it's basically, you know, a superhero pose, right? When I did this with high school children, they were doing all kinds of poses. It was awesome, right? So we had them stand there for 2 minutes doing a power pose. And for some of them, it was like this, right? Some of them, it was like this, right? Whatever works for you, do it, right? And in my head, for some reason, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but for this morning, when I woke up, and I was thinking about this talk, this is the song that came in my head. I have no idea why, but it got me amped up, and I was like, thunder, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. That's what got me amped up this morning before the talk today. So if there is a tune, like a song that really amps you up, if there's an inspiring message that you like to read, that, you know, puts you in the right mindset when you're doing your power pose, listen to it, read it, okay? And then as you're doing that power pose, breathe. Just breathe. All right, who wants to do a quick power pose? We're only going to do it for a minute. So everybody stand up. Watch your headsets if you're wearing headsets. Everybody stand up. All right, hands on your hips. Or whatever power pose you choose to assume. All right.
Carmen, we're having a hard time hearing you, your music.
Sorry?
We're having a hard time hearing the music.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's basically Thunder by AC/DC, but whatever tune you have in your head, you play it, okay? So as you're doing this power pose, just breathe and center yourself. Get out of your head space and into your heart space, okay? You want to be here. You want to be in your body. Okay, thanks for that note, Jessica, by the way. Okay, so as you're doing that breathing and you're doing that power pose, what are you feeling inside your body? What are you thinking inside your body? Put that in the chat for me. Where are you? Thinking of things beyond myself, positive vibes. I can do it. Yes. Strong, relaxed, confident. Yes. Strength. I am power. Love it. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. It makes me naturally smile. Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yes. Confidence, inspired. Fabulous. This is awesome, right? So just doing that for 2 minutes is going to make a huge difference to how you show up energetically in your interview, whether that's in person, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in video, okay? All right, so always maintain an assertive posture. What does that mean, right? Just means that you are standing with your legs like shoulder width apart, okay? Your hands kind of down by your side, all right? We've already talked about power posing. Watch your hands in an interview as well, okay? What are you doing with your hands when you talk? Now, people, you know, there's different schools of thoughts around this. I'm very animated when I talk, as you can see, right? I'm all about my hands, okay? And that's fine. So if you use your hands when you speak, that's okay, all right? Just don't be standing there scratching your head, sitting there scratching your head or picking your nose or whatever it is you might be doing, okay? Pay attention to your face, all right? What is your face saying that you don't realize? All right. Maintain appropriate eye contact. Look the person in the eye. If you're not maintaining appropriate eye contact, what can that come across as? What can that make me think about you if you're not kind of looking at me in the eye when you're talking? Like if I was giving this presentation and I wasn't looking at you and I was kind of doing this in my responses, what would that say? What would you kind of pick up on? Untrusting, shy, not confident. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Fantastic. So, and maintain appropriate. Now, I'm not saying you got to do this, right? You don't have to do that, but just maintain appropriate. Mirror the body language of others. Okay. Now, when you're having a conversation with your friends, what you'll end up noticing is a lot of the time you'll end up all in the same position, right? And it's because you know, like, and trust each other. Right? Just when you go out with your friends next time, or when you're with your family or people that you know, like, and trust, just watch that, observe that, right? You'll end up probably as mirroring each other's body language, right? Now, in an interview, when you notice that the interviewer is mirroring your body language, what is that a sign of? What is that a sign of? No, that's true, Gabby. Eye contact is not the normal culture. So just be aware of what culture you're talking with. That they like you, yes, right? So when you notice that the interviewer is mirroring your language, your body language, that's a good sign, right? It means that you've established trust and built rapport with that person, all right? And then you might notice that you're mirroring their language too. And that means that you know, like, and trust them, right? So that's really good that you're building that rapport. And then if you are a fidgeter and you're doing this constantly in the interview, make sure that there's nothing in your hands that's going to make you want to click that pen, especially because it can be a sign of nervousness, right? So if you're one of those, if you tend to have that more of a nervous disposition, make sure there's nothing in your hands that you can fidget with and play around with, okay? Because it's very distracting and it's taking away from the response, right? It's taking away from you. All right. Now, a lot of interviews are being done through video as well right now, okay? Thank you, Gabby. I love your response. I feel confident when I feel prepared. Yes, wonderful. So when you're doing a video, probably just like you did for this one, right? When you joined the Career Connectors Zoom today, right? Make sure that you have the right video conferencing tool already downloaded so that you have it ready to go and you're not scrambling at the last minute to try and figure all that stuff out. Prepare this stuff well in advance, okay? And I'm giving you these tips because a lot of interviews are still being done remotely, right? Because about 50 or 58% of the workforce, especially in Arizona, is still remote, okay? So keep your login credentials to hand. I mean, this is just common sense, basic stuff, right? But it's going to really help you again with your confidence because it's one less thing you have to think about before your interview, okay? Oops. Make sure that your device, wherever you're using, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your computer, right, can actually support the platform that you're going to be video conferencing on. And always test the technology. Don't assume it's going to work, all right? Test it. Always test it. Get a friend to dial in, you know, Zoom in with you or team in with you, whatever platform you're using, test it. And make sure that you have an excellent Wi-Fi connection and that there's no mobile phones in the room that are going to go off while you're talking. I don't know whether you can hear that. All right, sorry about that, guys. See, even I screw up too sometimes. All right. So, obviously put your phones on silent, ready for the video call. What else? And make sure that you're doing the interview in a quiet area of your home so you're not interrupted. Okay. So I'm in our sunroom right now. I just told Jessica yesterday, I just moved. My house is chaos, right? But I found a quiet place in the house so I could do this Zoom with you. And I've shut my cats out. My cats want to be in the room with me, but they're out there and I shut them out. So I didn't want anyone, because I've got a kitten that's 8 months old and all she wants to do is type emails for me. It's just, you know, she'll get in front of the screen. It's just very distracting. So find a quiet place, take all the pets out of the way, all the humans out of the way, tell them that you're going to have a Zoom meeting or you're doing an interview and just have that time so that they know, and that you can, again, not worrying about any sounds coming from the background and things like that. They're going to be distracting. Have your stars ready to go, okay? So I'm going to share something with you now, right? One of my slides, I don't know whether I can show this to you, but do you see this? Right, I wanted to make sure that I put all those points across when I was talking about that specific slide, okay? So with your stars, have them taped up around you, right? Have them out, like just the highlights that you want to make sure that you pick up on when you're talking in your interview. That's the wonderful thing about video, right? You can have things taped up, right? So have them around so that you can pull on them and reference them if you need to, okay? And then lighting. Now I'm front lit, so my computer is sitting, the window is behind my computer. Okay, so that I'm naturally front lit. You don't want to do the other way around. You don't want to be sitting in the opposite way, right? So I don't want to be sitting with my computer this way so that the window is behind me, because then that will create a silhouette of me and they're not going to be able to see me, right? So make sure that the lighting is correct so that you really create the best on-screen presence for yourself. All right. Now, natural lighting is the best kind of lighting. So if you can get an interview during the day when the lighting is really good, that would be also a bonus for you. And if not, just make sure when I've done Zooms in the evening, I've just found as many lamps as I could possibly find and put them behind my laptop and lit them up. Okay, so that I'm being lit from the front and not from the back. All right. And then I have my laptop sitting on top of a box. I just moved, right? So I wanted to elevate my laptop, all right? And I've got it up high. And the other reason I do that is so that I can stand up, okay? I'm actually standing up right now and I'm wearing flat shoes so my feet are super grounded, okay? And I've got my legs slightly apart. So again, right, that helps me with my confidence. All right, and it just grounds me, right? Just really, really grounds me. And when you're standing up, what's that phrase? Gosh, it's just got out of my mind. You're thinking on your feet, right? You're actually allowing your breath to flow through your body a lot more easily than when you're sat down hunched, okay? So if you're able to stand up when you do your interview on the video, okay, or even on the phone, I always tell my clients, stand up when you're on the phone. And so that you can think on your feet when you're answering the questions, that when you're breathing, you're not restricting your breathing. Okay, it's a really good technique just to always stand up whenever you're doing a video. Cool. And then the last point is when you get the interview details and video link, test ahead of time. Okay, I can't emphasize that point enough. Hopefully those points help for you. All right. Okay, sorry. All right, so I want us to read this together. We've got 3 minutes. Let's do this in a minute. I want us to read this together if you're open to the idea. All right. So I love this because, again, it really reminds me to shine my light so everybody else can shine theirs too. Okay. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our dark, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And remember, the person that you're being interviewed by is a human being too, okay? They're human. You have no idea what's going on in their lives, right? They have no idea what's going on in your life. So everyone you meet is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. Be kind always. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yay! Our virtual clap. Thank you, Carmen. If you have any words for Carmen, drop them in the chat right now. Thank you so much, Carmen. We really appreciate that. Yes, there's the virtual clap, actually, Michael. Kind of like that thumbs up I couldn't find. I'm like, where is it? So thank you so much. Great information. Please connect with Carmen on LinkedIn. There is her LinkedIn URL right there. And she already also dropped it in the chat. Everyone is really grateful for you today, Carmen. Just such great content. This Zoom event today, virtual event, will be on our website by tomorrow morning. And so if you missed some content, if you need some more information on that SWOT analysis and you want to hear it or look at it again, that will be available on our site tomorrow morning. And so we will, Joey, why don't you go ahead and drop that link into where the webinars are, or Bree, and but you guys will get an email after this event that'll direct you to it as well. And so we send a follow-up email with some various different links, and that's one of them. So thank you so much. We appreciate you being here today. I'm really interested in if you have a song that gets you going in the morning, or whatever, gets you pumped up, gets you ready for something. Anyone, if you want to drop that in there into the chat, that would be great. We're always looking to update our playlist. And so mine it's called Good Morning, and it's by a lady named Mandisa. And I tell you what, I play that thing and I just get going, and it just helps me get pumped. So if you have a favorite song that gets you pumped, drop that in the chat, and we'd love to maybe use some of them. Also, if let's see, what else did I drop in there? Oh, the TED Talk. I dropped in the chat the TED Talk for the power pose. And so you can also just go on YouTube and type in power pose and it'll come up. It's by Dr. Amy something, but she did a whole TED Talk on the power pose and how to get, it's about 20 minutes long. There is a shortened version that's about 8 minutes long also. So you can view that in your off time as well. All right, so next we're gonna move into Anna's talk, and this is really about success teams. And so I encourage you to listen in for the next 15 minutes. And then after this section, after Anna talks, we are gonna go into breakout rooms. And so we've invited some of our best resume writers and LinkedIn coaches to come on and join us and be able to coach, work with you in small groups in one-on-one format. And so that is coming in just a few minutes. And as a reminder, if you haven't yet, drop in your LinkedIn URL. I've been connecting with people during this event today, so thank you for connecting with me on LinkedIn, and I know each of you are connecting with each other as well. So drop into the chat your LinkedIn URL, and we will make sure to all connect with each other. And now I'd like to introduce you to Anna Brambilla. She has more than 20 years experience in the career transition field, and she has been a coach, a career coach, a recruiter, outplacement consultant, and a relocation expert. And she also worked in corporate finance and software project management and has an MBA from the University of San Francisco in undergrad in management economics from Simmons College in Boston. But in 2017, she has such a great story. She was looking for a different path, and she actually attended a workshop, and this one was on franchises, and she liked the concept, so she ended up buying her own license with the Entrepreneur's Source. And she has been helping professionals discover options outside of traditional career pathing since then. Throughout her career, she's helped people focus on getting the job in life they loved. And one of her favorite things to do is to be a matchmaker between people and resources. And that's why we get along so well. She leaves the romantic stuff for other people to do, but she loves giving people ideas and suggestions and resources as they navigate this time. She is a great coach and facilitator. She's a career ownership coach and works really hard to understand her clients and what their dreams and goals are. She also helps identify a vision for their future and explore ways to achieve that vision. And so since she became a franchise owner in 2017, she's helped hundreds of clients explore these options in a safe and fun and educational environment. Many will not become franchise owners. However, all of them learn about options. And I encourage you to just take a listen here for the next couple of minutes. And I have really loved enjoying working with Anna, and she has provided such great resources for so many of our people. So welcome, Anna. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Jessica. And it's always a pleasure to be here. In addition to everything Jessica said, I am a very, very proud sponsor of Career Connectors, and just thrilled to be able to give my time as well as my money to this incredible organization, and just believe so much in what Jessica and Joey are doing. So, excuse me. My 14-year-old son was kind enough to give me his cold. Luckily, I'm feeling better, but I still got a little bit of the residual. So who am I? What am I doing here? So as I mentioned, and Jessica mentioned in my introduction, I have been in the field of career transition for more than 20 years. It's been incredible. It's my passion. I love helping people who are in that feeling of, everybody's here right now, of I need to do something. I need to find a new job. I'm unemployed, underemployed, just not happy in my work. And so completely agree with everything that Carmen was saying. It was a wonderful presentation. I have nothing to add except for congratulations. So my particular entree into the field of career transitions is something called success teams. So some of you may have heard of a woman, Barbara Sher, S-H-E-R. She wrote a wonderful book called Wishcraft. And if you're in career transition, highly recommend that you check out that book. She came up with the idea of success teams. And so that's how I got my transition. And that's a whole other story that I won't go into right now, but that's how I got my introduction to the field of career transition. I have presented this, I lost track of how many times I've presented this topic. I've led on many, many success teams. I've participated personally on success teams. I think they're just one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your arsenal as you're looking for franchises, as you're looking for a job. One thing to keep in mind, I have, because I've been doing this and talking about it for more than 20 years and have a lot of experience, both as a participant, as a leader, I have certain things that I strongly recommend that you consider. And by the way, I'll put my contact information in. If you'd like a copy of the slides or have information about this, want more information, please feel free to reach out to me. So there's certain things that I strongly recommend. If I'm leading the franchise, then I say I'm a benevolent dictator. There are certain things that I make mandatory. Since I'm not going to be leading the success teams, then that's something that I just strongly recommend. Next slide, please, Bree. I love this. I love this quote. What would you be possible if people around you refuse to let you fail? Just think about that. What a powerful, powerful concept that is. Next slide, please, Bree. So here's what we're going to be talking about. Just what is it, how to start it, what does it look like, handling conflicts, and then hopefully we'll get some of you motivated to start a success team. Next slide, please. So fundamentally, a success team is a small group of people with a common goal. I have taught this, and you can do this success teams around almost anything, honestly. You could do it around fitness, weight loss, work-related projects, something like that. My focus is on finding a job. So success teams around focusing on finding a job, but this format works for almost anything. Next slide, please. So this is another quote that I absolutely love. So none of us is as smart as all of us. And as I mentioned before, I'm a former recruiter as well as a former job search coach and outplacement coach. So I'm going to bring some suggestions to the table with that. Next slide. Why would you join a success team? Anybody in there want to put out in the chat, why would you even do this? Why is this something that you want to do? Why would you join a success team? Any ideas? And I'm going to go through a little bit quickly just because we don't have a whole lot of time. Next slide, please. Accountability, people encouraging, completely agree. Accountability, other ideas, a job, great ideas, great. Focus, be successful too, I love it. So all of those things you can see on here. Motivation is another thing that I think is huge. I think accountability is probably the #1 reason to join a success team. Next slide, please. So our progress, these are some things that are very, very important. Very, very important. These are key things that I recommend. You need to have a regular basis. When I'm leading success teams or when I'm talking about success teams, there's certain key aspects that I have that I'll talk about in a second. But you need to make it on a regular basis. You need to make sure everybody has a voice. You need to make sure everybody commits to action items. And then you need to be able to keep each other accountable in a safe but pleasant way, but also in a strong way. So keep accountability. Next slide, please. So here are the things that I recommend. You need to have these 6 things. Leadership. You need to have somebody who's going to be in charge, and we'll talk about how that works. Everyone needs to go there with the same commitment and the same alignment. So make sure that you're there to support each other and make sure that you make this a priority. And we'll talk about that in a second. There's also got to be trust. Along with the commitment and the alignment is the continuity. You need to make sure that you're all there together. And then finally, accountability. Next slide, please. So this is what we're going to get into, some of the more specifics: whom to invite, where to meet, and when to meet. So whom to invite, this is one of those things that I am particularly strict about, if you will. I've had so many people say, I only want to be with people who are my level, director level and above. I only want to meet with people who are in the marketing function. I only want to meet with people who are in the technology field, whatever it is, the medical field. Please, please, please do not do that. Please don't do that. You never know who knows somebody else. You never do. I literally have gotten 2 job offers from people I met through the woman who used to cut my hair. Job offers from the woman who was my hairstylist. And so if I had limited it just to my level or just to my industry or just to my function, I never would have met those people. So you never know who knows whom. So please do that. Also, if you get into the same function or even the same industry, you talk about the same, you have the same jargon, you have the same language, and you never know who you're going to meet. You're not just going to talk to people at your function or your level or anything else. You're going to be out there in the world talking to people. Look at the breadth and depth of information and experience just here today. So you need to be able to learn how to talk to multiple people and learn how to have that without using the jargon. And then find people you quote unquote connect with. And normally that's, for the longest time, that's how I said, if you feel a connection with somebody, invite them to be on a success team. However, once upon a time, many years ago, I was participating in a job networking, an in-person job networking group here in California. I'm in the San Jose Bay Area. And literally one woman stood up and we were in a group and she goes, you, and you. We're all in a success team. And inside I cringed. I was like, no, that's not how you do a success team. You need to connect with people. Really. And it was one of the most successful success teams I've ever been on, because it was a random group of people, and the depth and the interesting and those insights that I got were second to none. So I'm almost going to take that bullet point off. Obviously, pre-COVID, coffee shops, restaurants, whatever, libraries, whatever. There are lots of Zoom options. There's lots of options, online options such as Zoom and other things now that you can choose. And here's weekly, when to meet. This is something that I'll talk about a little bit more, but make sure that you meet on a weekly basis. Next slide, please. So the first one is the most important one. The first meeting is the most important meeting. So make sure that you set the intentionality. What are you going to do? And set the confidentiality. Discuss excused versus non-excused or unexcused absences. By the way, this is something coming from a recruiter. Now, as a former recruiter, let me tell you, treat this time as sacred. And I'll talk about this a little bit. But treat this time as sacred. You are going to be meeting on a weekly basis, and I'm going to talk about this. Set a 6-week commitment. So every Monday from 10 to 12 or whatever the time is, those 2 hours are sacred. You are not available. Even if a recruiter calls you up and says, I want to interview you on Monday at 10 a.m., please tell them you're not available. I can tell you example after example. Unfortunately, there are recruiters out there like that say, oh, so if I call up somebody and I say, hey, are you available, Jim Smith? Are you available for an interview on Monday at 10? And Jim says to me, absolutely, I'm completely free whenever you want. As a recruiter, and I like to think I never did this, but I know colleagues who did, said, this person's not busy. I can get this person for cheap. This person's desperate. So please, it's stupid, but play hard to get to a certain extent. So this is a quick aside about recruiters, but make sure that you are very committed to keeping this time and date. Also, commit for 6 weeks. Commit to meet on a weekly basis for 6 weeks. You can do that. 6 weeks for a couple hours to further your job search, to make you better. You can do it for 6 weeks. Then talk about being on time, and then adding more members and anything else that's important. Next slide, please. So here are some more specifics. Please only have between 5 and 7 people. You can have as few as 3, you can have as many as 8, but 5 to 7 is the ideal number, in my opinion, for the number of people in your success team. You need to have enough people that you have a good group of people and a good balance and good enough information and the input, but without getting unwieldy. Next slide, please. Meet every week. Please keep that consistent. Again, it's only 6 times, only 6 weeks, only 2 hours. You need to have enough time to get the stuff done. So don't need to meet more than once a week. But if you meet less than once a week, then you're gonna lose momentum. So please keep it just to once a week for 6 weeks. Next slide, please. So you might have noticed on the previous slide, it's for a total of 2 hours. This is how I break it down, the agenda. It's 10 to 15 minutes total for the 30-second commercial, or the introduction, or the elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it. It's been called a lot of different things, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Then we're going to have every person has their own time, and then you can set the last 15 minutes for setting goals, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then we're going to talk about other business, and that's your last spot. The last section is for other business, whatever. Next slide, please. So here's some other things that I'm particularly strict about with the 30-second introduction. Everybody has a turn. I encourage you to give the presumed audience, because if you're literally at a networking event, you're going to say, hey, I'm Anna Brambilla, and I help people explore career options outside the traditional corporate world. That's my very quick at a networking event. If I'm meeting somebody new, I might go into a little bit more detail. If I'm sitting in front of a hiring manager, I'm going to have a much longer one talking about, tell me more about yourself. So that's why you want to have different versions. But this next part, feedback from the entire group, this is some of the most crucial points I can tell you. I had a client once who was who's in my success team, and his first introduction was, hi, my name is such and such. And he listed all of this jargon and all of this acronyms. And at the end of which we were like, huh, what does that person do? So we gave him feedback over the 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, every single one of us in that group, and there was about 7 of us, could tell you exactly what he did. Because over the 6 weeks, he refined it. He got rid of the jargon. He put it in terms that we could understand. So it was such a powerful thing. So as you're listening to somebody else's 30-second commercial, ask yourself at the end, do I know what that person does? Could I successfully introduce him or her to one of my colleagues or to one of my friends? And that's why you want to know, and you want to get the feedback. Were you interested? Was it compelling? Did you want to learn more? Or at some point, did you stop listening? Did it sort of, I'm just not interested anymore. I started thinking about the to-do list, or the laundry I have to do, or my cat is so cute, or whatever it is. Did you stop paying attention? So pay attention to when you stopped paying attention. And finally, tone and inflection. This is a big bugaboo for myself. So many women, especially, but men do it sometimes. I call it land the plane. So when you're talking, end on a period, not a question mark. So if I say, hi, my name is Anna, I'm a career ownership coach, I'm ending on an up, which makes it sound like I'm asking a question. I know my name. I know what I do. I'm not asking a question. So please, and this is true for interviews too, and especially for women, again, not always, and not only women, but please just make sure that my name is Anna, and I'm a career ownership coach. It sounds much more confident, and you're not asking a question. Next slide, please. So this is the general structure. This is an individual time. Everybody has their own time. And remember, it's a discussion. It's not a monologue, but it's focused on that person. So if it's my time, actually, if it's Joey's time, I'll pick on Joey for a second. If it's Joey's time, this is about her. This is about what's going on for her. How did the week go? Any challenges, any successes, what's going on? This is not an opportunity. If Joey says something, I'm having a real problem with Y. This is not an opportunity for me to say, oh, you know what? I'm having that same problem and let's focus on me. No, this is Joey's time. It's not my time. We can certainly table any topics for the end of the conversation, but this is all about Joey. Next slide, please. This is something else that I am particularly anal about in the goals. Set 3 goals, only 3. You can do as many as you want, but commit to 3. 3 is doable. It's an easy number. If you set 9, for example, and you don't get, if you set 10 and only get 9, then you've failed. You've not succeeded. This is success teams, not failure teams. And they must be SMART goals. Next slide, please. So we all know what SMART is: specific, measurable, and so on and so forth. Make sure that it's specific. It's one individual action that you have complete control over. Going on an interview is not a great success, is not a great SMART goal. The interview can be canceled, and all of a sudden you can't fulfill that goal. Sending 1,000 resumes is not reasonable. I literally had a client once who said, okay, great, this is terrific. I'm so excited. My first, not exaggerating, my first goal is to send 1,000 resumes. Yikes. I still remember, it's 20 years later. I still remember that moment vividly. So make sure it's send 1 resume to 1 person, make 1 phone call, apply for 1 job. You can also say, update my LinkedIn profile. I know it's not something that you're completely done with, so it's not completely measurable, but that's something that you could work on. Or research 1 company. But please make sure it follows these. Next slide, please. In terms of capturing goals, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You need to be able to capture at a minimum what your own goal is, what your own goals are, excuse me. What are the 3 goals that you've committed to? I highly recommend that you all capture each other's goals, so that if we're going around, and there's 5 of us, and each one of us has our 3 specific, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and timely goals, that we all write down each other's goals. And the reason I like that is that it puts it in our own minds what other people are going to be doing. So if they say, you know what, I'm going to be reaching out and doing some research on ABC company, I can say, oh, you know what, Carmen wanted to do ABC company and I ran into some information. Let me remember that. And by writing it down, it's powerful. Also, I'm in California, so I'm a little bit woo-woo. I've drunk the Kool-Aid about being hippy-dippy and all that stuff. And I think there's something powerful about putting it out into the universe. And the more that people write it down, the more it goes out there. You can also just write down your individual goal. That's fine. You can put it into a Google Doc, whatever. But I found that the most powerful and best way, honestly, is for everybody to handwrite each other's goals. Next slide, please. leadership roles, you're going to need at a minimum a facilitator and a timekeeper. You can have a scribe, but increasingly I'm seeing that that's just not as useful, but you need a facilitator. If I am leading the success teams, I am always this facilitator. But if it's self-led, then you can certainly change that. You can have that be different people. So 1 week it's you, 1 week it's next person, so on and so forth. Whatever works for you. And the timekeeper, going back to the facilitator, it's very important that you have somebody who's going to be in that role, who is going to keep track of people and keep you on topic and on track, and is not going to let the conversation veer too much off topic. And the timekeeper to make sure that everybody has their 30 seconds. How long was the introduction? Frankly, 30 seconds is a long time. It's as long as a commercial. And if you're talking, by the way, when you're doing your introduction for 30 seconds, you better be really good. Otherwise, people are going to lose patience and are going to lose interest, just so you know. And then, of course, everybody has their 10 to 15 minutes individual time. And again, you might find some people who are very strong natural facilitators, and that's great. They can be in that role. Or you might find people who you want to rotate, and that's fine too. Next slide, please. So other options I was talking about, Zoom. These are ways to meet online, Zoom, Google Hangouts, Skype, things like that. These are just some options. Next slide, please. Finally, troubleshooting. I encourage you to think about this ahead of time, but think about on your first meeting, how are you going to add or remove members? Remember, I asked you to make a 6-week commitment, 6 weeks only. Please keep that group of people consistent for that 6 weeks. Don't add people, don't remove people, but please keep it for that 6 weeks. You can add people at the end after that 6 weeks, but keep that consistency and that continuity, as I was talking about before. Think about other ways, inconsistent attendance. If the only reason I would encourage people to not have somebody join for or to have somebody leave in the middle of the 6 weeks is if they just don't show up, or if they're not supportive or something like that, but that's extremely rare. And then anything else. Next slide, please. So in the chat, or in my email, or in my LinkedIn, love any feedback. Is the 6 weeks evidence proof based and proven successful? Karen, is it scientifically proven? No. Is it over the 20 years I've been doing this? Absolutely. 6 weeks is the right number. So again, I've been doing this for a while. I've refined it. Am I an expert? By no means. Well, maybe I'm an expert, but am I scientifically proven? No. But I found 6 weeks to be the best number. So if you have, and I love Jessica's, yes, you can do this on one-to-one or a small group with friends. Absolutely. It's the sweet spot, Elisa says. I agree. So if you have suggestions, I'll be in the breakout room. Next room, please. Next slide, please. I'll be in the breakout rooms. I'll put my contact information, my email. If you are interested, just a quick plug about franchising. If you're interested in learning more about that, please check out my profile, my LinkedIn profile, my information here. I'm happy to chat with you. There's no cost to working with me to explore that as an option. And love any feedback, comments, questions, concerns. So appreciate it. And I think with that, I've actually exceeded my time, so I apologize for that.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for being here. I love the concept. This is the first time we've brought someone in to speak specifically about success teams, because we want everyone to understand the importance of having people in your life that can do all the things you guys talked about earlier: accountability, encouragement, friendship, challenging. But one of the things I love about success teams is, or having some accountability people in your life, is oftentimes they can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And so if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm good at, a lot of times those people in your life that are around you are the ones telling you, oh my gosh, you're great at this. What about this? You can do this. And it really gets your head going on like, oh, I didn't even think about that type of job, or that these soft skills transition into that type of career. And so having people speak into your life and you speaking into theirs is just a really great concept. So thank you, Anna, for bringing this to us. We appreciate you. All right, I'm going to go through a couple closing items, and then we will launch into our breakout rooms. So if you have any feedback for us in this program, please just shoot us an email. We're at contact@careerconnectors.org. I saw a couple posts on LinkedIn already about this event today. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for posting about that and these events. We always encourage people to let other people know. So we have at least one monthly virtual event that is content driven with coaching, and that is the event you're in today. And then we also do at least one or two additional events that are more hiring events, where we bring in employers, companies that are hiring. And so our virtual events, which we have one I'll talk about in just a minute, we bring a whole bunch of employers in that are hiring for their on-site and their remote positions, and so they're applicable to everyone throughout. Actually, you can be located anywhere. So if you have any feedback for us, please send that over. We have a couple additional resources located on our website. Everyone has access to a DISC assessment. This is just a behavioral assessment that tells you a little bit about yourself, your communication style, your ideal work environment. Do you like to be around a lot of people? Do you like to work by yourself? That kind of thing. And so that's free. It's quite a lot of content, about 24 pages you'll get back, but it only takes you about 10 minutes to answer some questions. Also, the recording will be loaded up on our website by tomorrow morning. Again, you'll get an email with these links in it, but I think that goes out tomorrow morning. It goes out after we load up the webinar, and sometimes the webinar just takes a little bit of time to format. And so also connect with us on any of our platforms. I did drop in the link a few minutes ago to our LinkedIn group, and I would encourage you to join our group. We post information content there, companies post jobs there, and so that's a great place to be connected as well. Thank you all to our corporate partners. Anna mentioned the Entrepreneur Source is one of our partners and sponsors. We're so grateful for that. So feel free to jump into Anna's room to talk to her about success teams, how she's done that in her life, and also what kind of support she gives to franchises and if that would be a good fit for you. So we have our upcoming events. So again, we do at least a couple events every month. On Tuesday, November 15th, we are doing a virtual event that is specific to support services in professional administration, any kind of business support. So we're going to have admin jobs, finance, IT, HR, any facilities, sales, any of the kind of jobs that you would say are support type of positions. We're going to have great companies there like USAA, American Express, Honor Health, and more. You can go to our event schedule on our website to see the full list. We've just loaded those up of all the companies that'll be there. And then on Thursday, December 1st at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I'm located in Arizona, and so our events are streamed from here. Arizona doesn't change time, which seems like it's really awesome, but it messes up everything virtually because everybody else changes time and we don't. So right now we're on Pacific Standard Time, and on our November 15th meeting, we start on Mountain Standard Time. So it may be an adjustment for you if you're calling in from the East Coast or another time zone. Our time may be a little bit different for when you jump on the call, but on December 1st at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, I am so excited that I get to do the keynote. I do it once a year. I usually do the last event of the year and to kind of close up the year and get you guys ready and encouraged for next year. And so I will be doing the event on Thursday, December 1st. And we'll also have coaching available there. I also have a special guest. His name is Dave Sherman. He is known as the networking guy in Arizona. And so it's going to be a great talk. I'll have some great content about our drastically changing career landscape right now. Coming out of COVID, there was a huge, a lot of people got let go, and then there was a huge hiring blitz. And now we're starting to see things taper off a little. And so how do you manage that? How do you adjust to that? We're going to talk about that. And then we only do one event in December because of the holidays. Things get crazy and companies kind of pause a little bit. They don't stop hiring. I didn't say that. They definitely are hiring, but they pause and change things a little bit, and then they really ramp up again in January. And so in January, we have Thursday, January 12th, we have our launch event. And her name is Vered Kogan, and we're waiting on her information to load it up, but she talks about mindset for getting ready for the new, or launching into the new year. So we are on a grant with Arizona, the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation. And so AZ Careers Now is also another place you can go for additional information and a lot of information on our hiring events. Now, we are a nonprofit organization, you guys. And so as part of Giving Tuesday, which happens on November 29th, we are sending out our campaign for fundraising. We only do 2 fundraisers a year, and this is one of them. And so we encourage people that are gonna want to give on Giving Tuesday to give to this campaign. So whether you can give or not, we encourage you to spread the word. And we are funded through grants and donations. So thank you again for any of your support there. We really appreciate it. All right, so that's just a QR code for our events. I want to thank all of our volunteers. We have about 125 volunteers that support this program. Many of them are here today supporting the event in a virtual world. Thank you guys. You are wonderful. We have lots of coaches here in just a minute. If you would like to volunteer, please go onto our website and fill out the form, and we would love to get in touch with you. We'll be relaunching our full volunteer program next year. And so we'll have a lot more opportunity for people to volunteer. So we're super excited about that. All right, already talked about that, our donations, and then I just want to tell, let's see if I just want to give one quick story to you guys that I wrote down as I was thinking about some of the stuff Anna was saying about accountability. And this works for careers, this works for your personal life, this works for your professional life. So no matter what you're going through right now, I encourage you to develop those accountability partners or friendships to have in your life when you are going through something tough, because we know career transition, whether you are actively in it or you're kind of pursuing it, but those people that are actively in it right now, it's one of the top 5 things on the list of things that cause stress in your life. It's one of the top 5. And so we know this can be really, really, really hard time for you. So if you are not connecting with people, if you are not connecting with friends that can encourage you and help you, please do that. Please reach out. There have been times in my life, this last year was one of the worst times of my life ever, some personal things going on. And I went to 7 of my friends, and they walked this with me over the last, it's been 14 months now. They walked life with me. And if I wouldn't have had them, I don't know where I would be today. So I am telling you, friendships, accountability partners, people that you can trust, invest your time in them, and they will invest your time back to you, and it will make a huge difference. So thank you for being here today. We are praying for you guys as you land the career of your dreams. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to throw it over to Bree, who is going to talk about getting into the breakout rooms. Hi, Bree.
Hello. Okay, so I'm about to open the breakout rooms. So how you get into them is you'll hover over your toolbar in Zoom. And then from there, you'll click on breakout rooms. You'll see that once I open them. You may not be able to see it now. And then you'll see a list of all the rooms. There's 7. And we have career coaches, LinkedIn, resume reviewers, and then everyone who spoke today. So just hover over the room you want to join, click join. Once you're in there, you can pull up the breakout rooms again, come back to the main session, and join another room. So I'm going to open all the rooms right now. And if anyone needs help going into a room, just let us know, put it in the chat, and we'll manually move you in there. Thank you.
All right, you guys, so you should be seeing the breakout rooms and able to join. Good, we see people moving into them now. You should be able to join the breakout room. So again, click on the breakout room icon at the bottom and then click the blue join option. If for some reason you're struggling or you can't see the room option, feel free to drop in the chat or unmute yourself and tell us where you want to go, and we will help get you there.
So Tom emailed me and he said he can't make it. So let's see. I think there's one person in the room.
Joey, are you on?